The Stoic Comeback: 13 Ways to Turn Rejection into Inner Power. They ignored your message. They didn't call back. They moved on without a word. And suddenly, a silent rejection spirals into a loud self-doubt. Was I not enough? Did I say too much? Maybe they never cared at all. But what if I told you, this moment, this quiet collapse you're feeling, isn't the end of the story? It's the beginning of a comeback. Welcome to the part they never show in highlight reels. The part where your self-worth takes a hit. Where your ego aches. Where you're tempted to shrink, to chase, or to lash out. But this is also the part where something powerful can happen, if you choose it. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher, wrote in his darkest hours, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To the Stoics, rejection wasn't defeat. It was redirection. It was raw material. It was the exact moment to train the mind, the will, and the soul. This isn't about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about using the pain to forge discipline, clarity, and strength. And that's what this journey is about. You're not here to numb the pain. You're here to rise through it. In the next 13 sections, we'll explore real, grounded, Stoic-based principles that help you turn rejection into personal power, one shift at a time. If you're ready to stop spiraling and start building, take a breath. Straighten your posture. And let's begin. Ignore them, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. There's a moment you know too well. You've reached out. Shared something real. Made an effort. And on the other end? Silence. Indifference. Dismissal. They saw your message, but never responded. They left you on read. They showed up for everyone, except you. And what's worse, they act as if you never existed in the first place. It burns. Your instinct is to react. To fix it. To demand recognition. A part of you thinks, if I just explain myself better, maybe they'll understand. Maybe they'll stay. But a Stoic sees through that illusion. Because true self-respect isn't proven by how you convince others to value you. It's forged in the quiet refusal to abandon yourself just because someone else did. So what do? You ignore them. Not to manipulate. Not to punish. Not to pretend they didn't matter. You ignore them because you matter. To ignore someone who once mattered deeply isn't a lack of feeling. It's a reclaiming of sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if someone despises me, that's their problem. My only concern is not doing or saying anything despicable. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's often a projection of the other person's limitations. To keep reacting, chasing, clarifying, pleasing, is to place your peace in the hands of someone who already proved they don't handle it well. The Stoic knows energy is precious. And energy spent explaining yourself to someone unwilling to see you is energy wasted. So you withdraw. You do not chase. You do not repeat yourself. You do not beg to be seen. Instead, you return, fully, to yourself. You refocus on your own mind. Your routines. Your growth. You double down on your principles. Your path. Your posture. The silence becomes your shield. The indifference becomes your teacher. And your absence becomes a mirror in their life, one they may or may not ever look into. But it no longer matters. Because you're no longer performing for them. You're building you. And here lies the paradox. When you stop giving them your attention, you take back your power. This is not easy. It may feel cold at first. But silence, when used intentionally, is not cruelty, it's clarity. You're not doing it to hurt them. You're doing it to stop hurting yourself. You're doing it to remember that the world doesn't decide your worth. You do. So the next time you're tempted to react to their silence, pause. Straighten your spine. Breathe. Withdraw with dignity. Refocus your energy towards something that nourishes you. And walk forward, not with anger, but with understanding. Not with noise, but with presence. Because those who can walk away in silence are often the ones who've truly found their voice. Don't react emotionally. They withdrew without warning. They gave you silence, not closure. And it left you spiraling, wondering what went wrong, and what you could do to fix it. The pain is real. You are not weak for feeling it. But what you do next, that's where your strength is tested. Most people react. They send long messages trying to be understood. They plead for explanations. They try to restore a version of reality that no longer exists. But reacting emotionally doesn't get you answers. It often gets you more confusion, more regret, more silence in return. The Stoic doesn't run from emotion. But they do question it. They recognize that the emotion isn't the enemy. The unconscious reaction is. Epictetus taught, if someone does wrong, that's on them. But your response? That's entirely up to you. You may not control who leaves. You do control whether they take your peace with them. So when emotion floods your body, you pause. You breathe. You observe. You sit with the discomfort, instead of trying to escape it. You ask, is this emotion telling me truth, or just echoing fear? If I react now, will I feel proud of it tomorrow? Am I acting from presence, or from pain? This moment is your opportunity to lead yourself. To show that maturity isn't found in how loud you can express your hurt, but in how quietly you can carry your clarity. Let yourself feel, but don't follow every feeling. Let yourself break, but rebuild in silence. Let yourself want to react, but choose instead to reflect. Because when the world tries to provoke a storm in you, your calm becomes a statement. Your stillness becomes a boundary. And your discipline becomes your freedom. Remove them from your mind. They're no longer in your life. But they're still living rent-free in your mind. You keep replaying what they said. You keep wondering what you should have done differently. You keep giving energy to someone who's already moved on. And the worst part? They're not even aware of it. Every time you revisit the memory, the silence, the what if, you reopen the wound. Stoicism teaches us not just to control what we do, but to discipline what we dwell on. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. What happened has already passed. But how long it stays inside you? That's your choice. You are not obligated to carry the past just because someone else dropped it on you. You must remove them, not out of hatred, but out of healing. That doesn't mean erasing the memory. It means cutting the emotional tether that keeps pulling you back into a story that no longer serves you. Here's how. Catch the loops. Each time you catch your mind drifting back to them, gently say, not today. Refocus with purpose. Channel the same energy into something that builds you, a habit, a craft, a challenge. Rewrite the role. Don't let them be the villain or the missing piece. Let them be the turning point. You don't owe anyone permanent space in your thoughts, especially not those who walked away carelessly. Your mind is a sacred place. What you allow to live there shapes what you become. Let go, not to forget them, but to finally remember yourself. That's how the Stoic clears the mind. Not with force, but with focus. Demonstrate your value. They overlooked you, ignored your effort, underestimated what you brought to the table. You might feel the urge to prove them wrong, to shout louder, to show them they lost something valuable. But here's the Stoic response. You don't prove your value by chasing recognition. You prove your value by building it, even when no one is watching. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Craving attention from those who dismissed you will only deplete you further. It reinforces a message. My worth depends on them noticing me. But it doesn't. True value doesn't demand to be seen. It creates results that can't be ignored. So how do you respond when someone overlooks you? You don't confront them. You don't beg them to reconsider. You let your work speak. You write. You build. You train. You show up, consistently, quietly, relentlessly. You invest in habits that compound. You work on skills that grow in silence. And you build a life so aligned with your values that their absence no longer matters. Here's the practice. Start a 30-day commitment to one project or goal. Don't announce it. Don't perform it. Just do it, daily, intentionally, without external validation. At the end, you'll notice something powerful. You've shifted your focus from being seen to being solid. And that's where your value becomes undeniable. Not because they notice, but because you no longer need them to. Their rejection becomes irrelevant. Your progress becomes personal. Your path becomes your proof. In the Stoic way, greatness is not declared. It is demonstrated, over time, through quiet action, with unwavering integrity. Cut off contact. There's a moment when silence becomes the most powerful thing you can offer. You've reached out. You've waited. You've given space, understanding, and maybe even forgiveness. And yet, they still treat your presence like it's optional. So you stop trying. Not out of spite, but out of self-respect. The Stoics teach us that emotional restraint is not suppression, it's selection. It's choosing where your energy flows, and just as importantly, where it no longer should. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you can improve. If the connection only drains you, diminishes you, or devalues you, it's not a bond. It's an emotional tax. Cutting off contact isn't revenge. It's a boundary. It's a declaration. I choose not to negotiate my peace anymore. But do it with grace, not drama. Don't make a scene. Don't send a final speech hoping to be heard. Just step back. Detach. Reclaim the silence. Here's what happens when you go no contact with intention. You create space for clarity. You reduce emotional noise. You learn what part of the pain was real, and what part was your attachment to the fantasy. This isn't about them realizing your worth. It's about you remembering it. You stop checking their page. You stop rereading old messages. You stop mentally scripting conversations that will never happen. You replace all of that with presence. With a morning routine. A new book. A deep breath. You reinvest in the only connection that truly lasts, your connection to yourself. The Stoic doesn't chase people to fix their story. They fix their own. And sometimes the most courageous act isn't holding on. It's letting go quietly, and not looking back. Prove them wrong. They doubted you. Dismissed your efforts. Labeled you too emotional, too quiet, too intense, too much, or not enough. And maybe they didn't say it out loud. But their silence spoke volumes. Their absence declared a judgment. You're not worth staying for. So now what? Do you beg them to reconsider? Do you defend yourself? Do you try to change their opinion? The Stoic says no. You don't prove them wrong by confronting them. You prove them wrong by becoming undeniable. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, Waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. You don't need their apology. You don't need their approval. You need momentum. Because true revenge is not loud. It's not a comeback post. It's not a success story written for them. It's living in such alignment with your values, discipline, and excellence that their rejection becomes irrelevant. Let their silence be fuel. Let their doubts be wind in your sails. But don't perform for them, build for you. Here's the practice. Set a personal challenge for the next 60 days. No announcements. No audience. Just daily, gritty effort toward a future that reflects your inner work. Track progress. Refine your focus. Sharpen your edge. At some point, they may see the growth. They may regret how they treated you. But that's not the point. The point is, you won't care anymore. Because the person you're becoming won't need their validation. You'll have something more powerful, self-respect earned through action. The Stoic doesn't hope for recognition. They build a life so solid that recognition is just a side effect. Prove them wrong. Not with words. With results. Go out and have fun. After rejection, fun might feel like the last thing you deserve. You feel heavy. You've been hurt. You want answers, not entertainment. But here's what the Stoics understood. Joy isn't the opposite of pain. It's a remedy for it. Life continues, regardless of who stays or leaves. And if you're not careful, your world shrinks to the size of the person who let you down. That's not strength. That's stagnation. Marcus Aurelius never told us to be serious all the time. He reminded himself to appreciate the present. To find beauty in nature. To enjoy the moment without needing to control it. So yes, go out. Laugh. Move your body. Talk to people. Eat something new. Visit somewhere you've never been. Not to distract yourself from the pain, but to remind yourself, there's more to life than this one wound. When you engage with life, you expand. You shift from being the one who was hurt to the one who is still growing, still living, still open. Here's the practice. Schedule one intentional experience this week. A hike, a dinner with friends, a new hobby. During it, don't talk about them. Don't think about what you're missing. Just be there, fully, as yourself, untethered from the past. This isn't about pretending everything's fine. It's about proving to yourself that life still holds joy. That your story has chapters beyond this one. The Stoic doesn't suppress sorrow. But they also don't wear it forever. They know that healing happens not only in solitude, but also in sunlight, in laughter, in motion. So go out. Not because you're trying to escape pain, but because you're choosing to grow past it. That is wisdom. And yes, it can smile. Build your social status. Rejection can make you feel small, invisible. Like your presence didn't matter, and your absence doesn't either. But the Stoic doesn't seek revenge through attention. They rebuild their foundation, quietly, powerfully, from within. True social status isn't about popularity. It's about perceived integrity, self-command, and visible alignment with values. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." That begins by becoming that person yourself. You don't need to prove your worth by broadcasting every achievement. You need to become someone whose presence commands quiet respect, without saying a word. Here's how you do it. Improve your posture, tone, and presence. Carry yourself like someone with clarity, not chaos. Be intentional with who you spend time with. Align with people who challenge you to rise. Speak less, mean more. People remember those who speak with purpose, not volume. But most importantly, create things. Build. Share. teach, lead. Whether it's your art, your writing, your skills, your work ethic. Let your consistency and contribution establish your voice in the world. The goal is not to look important. The goal is to become so self-aligned and self-directed that your identity becomes a beacon. People are drawn to those who don't need approval. To those who are calm in rooms full of noise. To those who are becoming something, not just reacting to someone. Reclaim your presence. Your social standing will rise the moment you stop begging to be seen. And start living in a way that can't be ignored. That's what the Stoic builds. Not a following, but a force. Act as if they don't exist. They're gone. But you keep acting like they're still watching. You check if they've seen your story. You wonder what they think of your latest post. You still tailor parts of your life to their absence. That's not moving on. That's living in a ghost story, where they haunt your decisions without even being present. The Stoic path teaches us this. You don't need to hate someone to move beyond them. You just need to stop making them the center of your inner world. Marcus Aurelius advised, "A man must stand erect, not be kept erect by others." You were never meant to orbit someone else's attention. So how do you act as if they don't exist, without becoming numb or bitter? You shift the focus. You stop giving them emotional real estate in your daily decisions. You stop reacting to what they might think. You stop feeding the idea that your life is still somehow connected to theirs. You practice emotional neutrality. If you run into them, you nod. If they come up in conversation, you respond, then redirect. If their memory rises, you acknowledge it and let it pass like a cloud. This doesn't mean you never cared. It means you care enough about your peace to reclaim your inner space. The point isn't to erase them. It's to remove the gravity they still hold over how you show up. Because when you act as if they no longer exist, what you're really doing is reasserting that you do. Fully. Clearly. Without apology. That's what a Stoic does. They stop reacting. They start recentering. And the world begins to orbit them instead. Give them the silent treatment. You don't owe them a response. Not to their silence. Not to their games. Not to their inconsistency. They may expect you to lash out. To explain. To chase. To make one last effort to be heard. But you won't. Not because you don't feel anything, but because you've learned that silence is strength. The Stoic doesn't react just to fill the space. They allow silence to speak on their behalf. Epictetus taught, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Why? Because validation isn't the goal. Control over your inner state is. And silence does something words never can. It sets a boundary without creating a scene. It says, "I'm not engaging in dynamics that drain me." It reclaims power, without asking permission. When you give someone the silent treatment with intention, not malice, you're choosing reflection over reaction. You're not trying to punish them. You're trying to preserve yourself. And in the stillness, you learn things. You see what part of you craved their attention. You notice how much noise they introduced into your peace. You realize how far you've come just by not responding. Here's the practice. The next time you feel triggered to reply, pause for 24 hours. In that silence, write, not to them, but for yourself. Ask, what do I want to say, and why? Often, what you needed was not expression, but clarity. You'll be surprised how often silence solves what words complicate. If they reach out again, you can choose how to respond. From wholeness, not from hurt. But until then, let your stillness speak. Not as revenge. As recentering. Not to hurt them. To heal you. The Stoic doesn't seek to be heard. They seek to be whole. And silence, used wisely, becomes the sound of self-mastery. Don't beg for attention. You want them to notice. You want them to realize what they lost. You want one last chance to explain, to remind, to prove. So you post something indirect. You show up where they might see you. You write a message and hesitate, thinking, maybe if I just say this right, they'll care again. But the truth is hard and simple. You shouldn't have to audition for someone who already decided not to choose you. The Stoic path demands something higher than performance. It demands presence. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never value the approval of the crowd more than your own inner clarity. Chasing attention may give you a momentary rush, but it leaves you empty. Because attention that must be begged for is never sustainable, and never sincere. Begging to be seen is an invitation for further rejection. It reinforces that your value depends on someone else's validation. And that's not power. That's dependency. So what do? You turn inward. You stop performing. You start building. You channel your need to be seen into a need to become. You let your life, not your longing, do the speaking. Here's the practice. Remove all content and behavior aimed at a reaction. Replace it with one meaningful action per day. Create something, solve something, build something. At the end of each week, reflect not on who noticed, but on what you moved forward. You don't need to be louder. You need to be clearer. When you stop needing to be chosen, you start becoming someone who stands alone, with dignity and direction. And soon enough, your presence won't beg to be seen. It will simply be impossible to ignore. That is what the Stoic cultivates. Substance over show. Value over noise. Respect, starting from within. Be kind but emotionally distant. You don't have to be cruel to move on. You don't have to be rude to be strong. And you certainly don't have to become bitter just because someone else was careless. But here's what you do need. Distance. Emotional distance is not coldness, it's clarity. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's not indifference, it's protection. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca once wrote, "Kindness is invincible, if it be genuine. What can the most malicious man do, if you continue to be kind to him?" Kindness, when rooted in strength, becomes a form of grace. But when rooted in insecurity, it becomes self-abandonment. So how do you be kind, without giving away your center? You decouple warmth from dependency. You offer politeness, not permission. You respond without reacting. You respect others, without tolerating what violates your peace. It might sound like this. I wish you well. I'm not available for that dynamic anymore. I don't hold anger, but I do hold boundaries. Kindness doesn't mean access. Compassion doesn't require closeness. And forgiveness doesn't obligate reconnection. Here's the practice. Respond slowly, never impulsively. Be cordial, not cold. But don't reopen doors you've closed just to avoid guilt or discomfort. Most people believe that pulling away makes them look bitter. The Stoic knows that bitterness comes from suppressed anger. But boundaries come from preserved clarity. You can wish someone the best and still walk away. You can show respect without reattaching. You can move forward without making them the villain. This is your emotional discipline in action. Not reacting, not resenting, just realigning. Kind but distant. Warm but wise. Soft on the outside, rooted like stone within. That's Stoic maturity. Don't reveal your struggle. You're hurting. You've cried behind closed doors. You're waking up with questions and going to sleep with silence. But no one knows. And a part of you wonders, would they care if they saw how much this affected me? It's tempting to show the pain, to hint, to post, to message, to leave traces of your suffering in hopes someone will notice and reach back. But the Stoic teaches us something radically different. You don't owe anyone access to your vulnerability, especially not the person who caused it. There is strength in privacy. Marcus Aurelius endured war, betrayal, and immense pressure. Yet in his meditations he reminded himself, "Look well into yourself. There is a source of strength which will always spring up if you look there. You don't have to broadcast your struggle to prove you're human. You don't have to be seen in pain to heal. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is suffer well, quietly, with dignity. This doesn't mean bottling it up. It means choosing where and with whom your pain is shared. It means honoring your own process without making it performative. Here's the practice. Journal your pain instead of posting it. Share with one trusted person, not the world. Let your actions reflect your healing, not your agony. Revealing your struggle to the wrong person gives them power. It invites speculation, pity, or worse, silence. Instead, move in shadows. Let your strength rebuild behind the scenes. And when you return, do so not to announce survival, but to embody it. You are not hiding. You are healing, without asking for permission, attention, or applause. The Stoic doesn't wear their pain to gain sympathy. They wear their presence to show resilience. Quiet suffering. Loud growth. That's the final form of power. The quiet return of power. You were hurt. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe they dismissed your value. Maybe they left without explanation, and it cracked something inside you. You could have reacted. You could have begged. You could have unraveled. But you didn't. You paused. You reflected. You chose the harder path, the quieter one. The Stoic comeback isn't loud. It doesn't need a stage. It begins in silence. In discipline. In the way you start showing up for yourself, without waiting for anyone else to notice. You stopped chasing. You started recentering. You ignored, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. You didn't react emotionally, you examined. You removed them from your mind, not to erase, but to release. You demonstrated your value through action, not explanation. You let go. You rebuilt. You re-emerged, not louder but deeper. Now you carry yourself differently. Not to prove you're okay, but because you finally are. And if any part of this journey resonated with you, don't let it end here. There's more waiting in the playlist I've pinned on screen. Each video is one step, one practice, one quiet turning point in your own Stoic comeback. If today's message gave you something to hold on to, leave a comment. Share the part that hit home. You never know who else might need it too. Like this video if it served you. Subscribe to True Stoic Mindset to walk this path alongside others reclaiming their peace, one breath at a time. The comeback has already begun. Not with noise. Not with drama. But with one calm decision. I will no longer abandon myself. Now move forward. Not to prove anything, but because you've finally stopped waiting. This is how Stoics rise.